Hey everyone, this is Innovator's Mindset with Carolee Ogata. All right. I am so excited for this. I am so excited. I was gonna say this to you before we record, but I'm like, I need to say it to you while we record. You are just like, as a superintendent, you are just such a breath of fresh air. I love your honesty and the way you advocate for your staff, the way you advocate for your students, for your board. And I gotta just talk to you all day. I'm like, okay, I gotta record something because I really enjoy talking to you. So I'm actually gonna be joining Carolee and her team at Huntington Beach Union High School District coming up in August with the leadership team, and again with your staff. And honestly, the stuff you've told me, I feel like I can only wreck stuff. I'm gonna just make it worse. So I wouldn't screw things up. I want you to be better after I'm there, but you're doing some really incredible stuff, and it is your advocacy for your like whole school district is amazing. So I could gush about you all day, but I'm gonna ask you to just kind of introduce yourself, tell us what you do today and how you got there. I think it's a really great place to start.
For sure. First of all, thank you for having me on today, George. I'm super excited and honored to be here. But first, I work in the best school district in the world. I get to work in the best school district in the world. But my journey started as an English teacher and moved my way through being a principal and director, and then landed in Huntington Beach Union High School District 14 years ago as assistant superintendent of human resources and then deputy superintendent. Been in this role for 2 years, starting on my third year next year. And what an honor to get to be the superintendent of such an amazing place.
Yeah, and it is like I've connected with a lot of your team already,
Mhm.
and if there's any indication, because they like everyone, and I was talking to Rocky. I think is Rocky your deputy superintendent, assistant super, what's his role? I know he's a superintendent of sorts. He's
He's an assistant superintendent of educational services.
Yeah, and his one of the things that he talks about and is like coming, from your vision and what you do is really kind of knowing people's names, knowing who they are, and not just your students and your staff, and but like everybody. And you're looking at some of the programs, and I'm reading this off your website, and I was like, is this all like legit? Because this is pretty incredible. So you have like Model UN Nations, Academy for Portraying Arts, IB program, math educational resources. It's like AVID program, international business communications, and you have all these like really advanced opportunities for students. And I think there's a lot of it going towards college. But one of the things that you also talked is there's like a technical aspect. There's so many different opportunities for our kids today. So how did you get to that place? Like, how did you get to that place where there's so many different opportunities for kids, and how like you keep talking about your staff, right? Before we were talking about this, like how have they responded, and like how have they led that process to ensure kids have those opportunities?
Well, it starts with our board for providing all these opportunities, making sure that we're flexible to what students need. But it all happens because of our staff. I've had nothing to do with any of it. MUN is staff started. CyBax, the Business Academy over at Edison, is staff started. AVID, these programs, APA, they're all because we have the best staff. They are so professional, so knowledgeable. They put their heart and soul into their classroom or these programs. They're there in the morning, they're there at night. I see them at performances and at on Saturdays and all kinds of things. They are so dedicated, so professional, and their job is their lifestyle. And how fortunate are we that our kids get to benefit from all these programs?
Yeah, and you're like when I don't know if you know this, but years ago, principal, I don't know if you know this, reached out to me because he's like, we really want you to come here, and we loved your messaging, and we can connect with that. And he was the one who advocated for me, which I'm very appreciative. But
Mhm.
I'm not saying this to brag about myself, but to say like it's kind of neat that it wasn't, no offense to you, it wasn't coming from you. It's coming from your staff members, and that you like heard them and like you talked about this. Now you can all say, "Oh, it has nothing to do with me," And I'm not saying these are necessarily your ideas, but it takes a certain type of superintendent to feel comfortable really empowering their staff, right? Like that's not, I see a lot of superintendents. It's not always the case, right? And so why do you like, how did you get to that mentality where you're like, hey, like this is really led by our staff. This is led because, you know, a bad superintendent can really take away that process, and then, you know, people aren't showing up the same way. So tell me about like, why do you even think that way? Like what's your experience to get to that place?
Well, I think that the word collaboration is misused, right? Because um, I have to stay back from that collaboration and let the teachers lead
Mm-hmm.
and be collaborative together, because they're the smartest ones in the room. I'm not that person. They're the most creative ones in the room. If they ask me to collaborate with them, that's an honor.
Mm-hmm.
But the teachers and principals, assistant principals together are way more empowered when they create something than having me create it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I believe. But I remember when a bunch of our staff, teachers, classified staff, principals, assistant principals, saw you at the AVID training, and we had you here for, I believe, Westminster High School and Huntington
Mm-hmm.
High. People raved about you
Ah,
and raved about how important your message is for staff to hear. And so now we get to have every staff member hear you before the beginning of the school year next year. And what a great way to start the school year, having such a motivational speaker that will resonate with them for a long time. And we're going to use your message and forward together throughout the school year.
well, I first of all, thank you very much. So I wasn't how you boomerang that into a compliment to me is pretty impressive. And so the one of the things we talked about that really resonated with me before is you talked about ownership. And we'll talk about this in the students in a second, but I know this is not just important to your staff, but also to your board. And I've been really, and one of the things I talk about in Forward Together that really matters to me is there's a huge difference between the idea of buy-in versus ownership. Because, and if we really identify what buy-in actually is, it's like me manipulating you to get you to do what I want you to do, right? That is kind of what it is. Whereas ownership is like I actually see, you know, my fingerprints on the solution. So now I want the solution to actually be successful because I've actually helped build that. And I think that's something that matters. How is your board? Because I know you are, that's, I'm assuming it's the same as it is everywhere else. Like you are the, you know, one employee of the board, but you have talked so glowingly about them and their impact. How have they really, you know, kind of led the charge on really building ownership across the school district?
Well, our board is second to none. They are so professional, kind, generous with their time, and they truly believe that students need as many opportunities as they can get. I mean, our board understands the role of governance,
Mhm.
and so they let me lead the school district, and they govern in their role.
Yeah.
So we're so lucky to have the five of them and having a vision of what the school district can be and what it is. I can use, for example, our Academy of the Performing Arts. We have kids from the Academy of the Performing Arts on Broadway now, working at Disneyland as actors and actresses. And then it's also the behind the scenes technicians that are working all across the world in that world. And that I know nothing about that, but our staff is the ones that know that. And it's our board who believes that kids need all these opportunities to really see what's out there in the world, because as humans, we as young kids, we see only a few things: doctors, nurses, maybe what their parents do, and teachers.
Mhm.
And so we're trying to open the eyes of our kids through different CTE pathways, different programs, and the business academies allowing for entrepreneurship. It's just so amazing. I was at a culinary event last week where kids created dishes of, they had a mystery box, and Fountain Valley High School won. Shout out Fountain Valley. And the food was something you would get in a restaurant. So kids have all these opportunities here that we offer because the staff is empowered. They own their different programs.
Yeah, and that, it's funny because that takes a lot of trust, because the board obviously really believes in your staff, really believes in your community, and to, do their role. And I'm not saying that, and obviously they have a vision of where they want people to go, but also to build that community to really support your staff and connect it. One of the things that I talk about in Forward Together that I know really is underlying all the stuff that you talk about is that schools aren't just central to the community, they are the community. And that is obviously there too. And I know you had mentioned, and I don't know if I don't know if I'm doxing you by bringing this up, which is like kind of a kid term, but I know you like live in the community, right? Like
I
you live
do.
right in the community. Why does that matter? Because I know, I'm not saying if you're a superintendent, you have to live in the community, but I know you mentioned it as something that really was important to you. So why does that matter so much to you?
I proudly live in the community, and for me, I can get to any school within about 10 to 15 minutes. Um, and so I get to go to events so easily, and I get to be at schools within a few minutes. And so there is, it's such an honor to get to live in the community I get to work in.
Right.
And I'm so proud that I see our students around town. I'm always asking them, who's your favorite teacher? And they tell me, and then I try to tell the teachers.
Awesome.
And I get to see staff on a Saturday, and I look like a Saturday on a Saturday. And sometimes they're like, Carolee? So I don't look like this. And so it's so fun to see them at Trader Joe's or at the supermarket or South Coast Plaza, wherever it is. And what an honor to get to live here.
Yeah, that is so crucial to what you do in your community. I I like your little. I look like a Saturday. I like that. I've never heard that before. I just think I think it's really cool, and you can feel the pride that you have in your school community. I do want to read, and there's a reason I read this. Your mission and vision. You say we will educate, prepare, and inspire students to change the world. I love this,
Mm-hmm.
and I think when you're talking about this too, it's not a future focus. It's like right now,
Mm-hmm.
it's right now and the future. And I think, how you're talking about some of the experiences your students have, it's like, hey, like they can actually make an impact on the community right now. Why are you waiting for this stuff? And empowering minds and building futures through innovative learning. So I see this as I know it's not, I don't want to say top down because I know that's not your approach, but there is a little bit of this top down in the sense that if you really want to build ownership with the student learning, staff have to feel ownership over their teaching, right? Because if you're like, hey, we really want innovative opportunities for our students, but do it exactly this way. Do you know what I mean? So there's a belief system there. I think that really matters. One of the things that your team has really talked about and you've shared matters to you greatly is that students have that ownership, that they really care about what they are learning. So what does that, when you say that, what does that mean? Like, what does that mean to you? Like, how do you define that? How do you see that happening already in your schools?
Well, I see it every single day, and it could be athletics, it could be MUN, it could be IB, but our kids are owning their learning every day and not just doing school. Same with our staff. I'll tell you what, I went to Edison High School for a CyBax Shark Tank competition, and we had sophomore kids trying to sell me their company. One of the
That's
companies,
amazing.
it was amazing. One of the companies that were going to sell that I told them I'd buy is a, technology. They'll come to you to help you with any technology, with your phone, with your computers for $50, 25 to $50. And they're targeting old people like my age. And they said anybody on Facebook, that's who we're targeting. And that is such a neat strategy that they
It is
talked
a good
about their
story.
polo shirts and things that they're going to, how they're going to advertise to the elderly. And these two gentlemen own their learning and sold me this company. And then some other kids, they had a company of tutoring young kids during the summer. Like, how great is that if these really neat high schoolers are tutoring younger kids during the summer. So we have our kids have the capacity for so much, and I think our staff really stretches our kids
Mhm.
um, through every different way possible. So it's magical to see.
Well, now, like, I love that story, but I'm also wondering how old I am because I've had Facebook for how long. I remember as a teacher, I remember saying to my students, I know, like, have you heard of this thing called Facebook? And they're like, that's for old people. And I remember this is like when it first came out. And then, like, 6 months later, like, have you tried Facebook? I'm like, remember, I'm the old guy. Remember that? I taught you about it. It's kind of funny. So I love this. As I'm talking to you, and it's interesting to kind of think about me joining you all because there's a lot of, and I appreciate it too, because sometimes I'll go to places and they're like, oh, you're very opposite of what we're doing right now. And I feel like a lot of the work that I do is really aligned to what we're doing. Again and Forward Together, the goal I share is how do we help students find a pathway to success that is meaningful to them, right? Not
Mm-hmm.
defining that for them. And I think when you talk ownership, they have that pathway to success. So this is the putting George on the spot question for you. So you're already doing great stuff. So I'm a little nervous. If I'm successful in working with your leadership team, and because I'm working with them first, and then
Mm-hmm.
working with your entire teaching staff and your community, how do you know if I've done a good job? Like, how will you measure that for me? And this is like going to be shared out with your staff, so I better live up to what you're asking me right now.
Well, if you are successful with our staff who are so smart and so forward thinking, is so professional,
Hmm.
I think they'll continue to talk about forward together,
Yeah,
ownership, and creating programs for every student. That is going to be the reverberation that I will look for, is just the continual talk.
yeah.
Now, part of that's up to us to make sure that we are continuing the talk of the different pathways we can find for students, and we're constantly working on that behind the scenes.
Yeah, I am. I listen. I know this is a weird thing to say. I'm like really excited to join you all because I love having the conversations I have, finding this stuff out. I'm gonna steal stuff from your district and pretend it's mine in the future, and like that kind of thing. So I'll look really smart by osmosis. So I know I could talk to you forever, and I'm gonna talk to you after this too because there's a lot of stuff I got. We're gonna talk about it after. I cannot wait to be out with your staff and working with you all because like you are just a real inspiration. I just love I, I love how you advocate for your community and like everyone doesn't matter what their role is, what they do, because you're really trying to put people in a position where they find their success. And it's not just the staff, it's your board, it's your teaching staff, it's your support staff. So I'm excited to be out there. So thank you so much for taking the time. I know you got a lot of stuff going on in your day, right? You're probably getting phone calls right now that you're ignoring. So I will let you go, but thanks so much for your time, Carolee. It has been an honor to get to know you. I can't wait to join you all very soon.
Thank you so much. It's so wonderful to speak with you as well. Thank you.
The best. All right. Have a wonderful day. Thanks for all you do. Take care.